It's interesting too. I look at some of the reviews. Someone said, "I finished this book with tears in my eyes. For Michelle is not just a love story; it's about the consequences of love, the weight of silence, and the cost of living with regret. The father-son dynamic, well, it was written so well, and I found myself pausing just to reflect on my own family. If you enjoy multi-generational dramas with the emotional depth, this is it." That's a really good review. Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 472. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have with us the internationally acclaimed and celebrated Vermont author, Thaddeus Robinson.
Thank you for having me on.
Thaddeus. Yeah, how are you doing?
Doing well.
You're here in Vermont, but all of your books, this is interesting, all of your books don't take place in Vermont. They take place in South Carolina.
Yes. So in June of 2024, my wife and I packed up our 3 kids and moved to Vermont from South Carolina. I had been there for most of my adult life and most of my childhood, but her parents both died in 2023. And I had a lot of family up here that I wanted my kids to grow up around. So we made the climate jump and the change.
And so talk to us a little bit about your books. And I saw you at an event, and your books are thick. These aren't tiny little 125 pagers. These are huge.
Yep. Most of them range between 200 to 400 pages. Very few on the 200 side, more towards that 400 page size. It is a multi-generational family saga. It starts with the first book in the first series. The first series is Tales from Paradise. And the first book is for Michelle. And it is a father telling a son the story that we don't tell our children, the things that we shelter our kids from in the day to day, how your marriage fell apart, how your life moved on from that. And in doing that, the son learns a lot more about the family that he actually has. And he ends up learning that he has 3 half siblings that he was unaware of. And the next book in the series is Lost and Found, that picks up with that son moving forward in his life and how he goes forward with the knowledge that he gained from his father. And does he choose to make the same mistakes and shut the world out and keep things in, or does he learn from his father's mistakes and become a better person?
And then in book 3 is Second Chances.
Correct. So book 3, 4, and 5 actually follow the other siblings that Christopher, the son, finds out about, and it tells you their sides of the stories. What I love is that at points, most of these books run in a parallel timeline, and you're seeing events from someone else's perspective. Okay. So it all overlaps and layers together to give you a more complete story.
Right. And now, a lot of people, when they're writing books that are 300, 400 pages, they like to kind of like world build at that point.
Absolutely.
Now, with this having it take place in South Carolina, it's not a fictional place. It's not from a different planet. It's not in a fantastical area, and it's not even like huge historical taking place 100 years ago.
Yep.
So why, if you're telling stories about human interaction, why was South Carolina such an important backdrop for that?
South Carolina, for most of my childhood, represented a lot of great things, and it was the world I grew up in, the world I lived in. And while the events take place in Paradise, if you were to lay it on a map, it overlaps the small towns of Socastee, Garden City, and Surfside, South Carolina. And those are the places I grew up, where I had friends, where I built my memories from childhood. But using it as Paradise, it could be anyone's small town home. It could be anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be South Carolina, but South Carolina has so much. It has the ocean. You have the tourists who come in and bring different influences in. It has a really nice, rich history. So it was fun to play with that area and build a world in it.
Hmm. Now, is South Carolina one of the main characters then in your books?
I would definitely say Paradise has its own gravitas and its own place in those series. Um, it does exist and it comes to life in your mind, and you may not have been there, but you've seen the postcards and you can identify the mom and pop shops, the old fashioned diner, and the Ferris wheels and things like that, and the piers. You've seen them before. This is just putting them in a new setting and giving them a feel to make you comfortable and familiar with.
When people write books, they usually put a piece of themselves into their characters.
Absolutely. Um, there are pieces of me sprinkled throughout the entire Riley family. Um, I write, you write what you know. My parents divorced when I was 2. So there is some of that strained interaction between a father and son that I'm quite familiar with. And trying to grow those bonds with someone that you may not know as well as you would like to. So I understand moving those pieces and opening up those feelings and avenues to really talk about the human side of those characters. Is going to say the main character in For Michelle, it's uh, the older, the father is Jacob. It's not a accident I chose that character name. It's my middle name. His hard headedness at times is straight out of the mirror. So you definitely, when you write, you put a little piece of your soul in everybody you grow in a story.
Mm. Was there a scene that was hardest for you to write when you first started writing?
Ooh. Um, there is a scene in the book, in one of the flashbacks between Jacob and Michelle, where he has made a decision to enlist in the army after JFK's assassination. He has a sense of duty, and they had grown and been through a lot together. And the fact that she felt he was choosing service over her, I went into the army myself after high school. Made it through part of basic training, and asthma doesn't work well in the armed services. So that was that. But knowing that decision to choose a path of service and what it cost. I come from a long line of people who serve this country, and it's not always the easy decision or path.
Do you, because these are huge books, do you plot your stories in advance, or you just kind of like follow the characters as they kind of go along?
So for Michelle, I started writing 22 years ago.
Hmm.
I plotted it out and was writing, and writer's block hit and I put it down for 3 or 4 years. And I got tired one night and I said, you know what? I haven't looked at this in a while. I opened it back up and I plotted some more and worked some more in and got a good first draft. And at that point, it was more the straightforward story of of Jacob and Michelle. I didn't have the characters or the plot line, and I went, this doesn't feel complete. How do we, where do we add? What do we take away? And I put it down for a little while, came back, and I went, you know what? I've started on this other story over here. That character seems a lot like he could learn from this guy. So it grew there, and I'm like, well, if two people have a sordid affair for 10 years, what's going to come from that? And the rest of the story kind of fell in, and I literally had it plotted out on a huge Excel spreadsheet with years and things that would happen for each character. And I had them outlined and almost first draft ready. And the current day job I have does a lovely thing in the winter, and it gives us a week and a half off. And while it did, there's not much to do in Vermont when it's snowing outside. I sat at my desk and Googled and found a lovely program called Novel Crafter. And it actually helps you build your character sheets and plot out your chapters. So I took everything that I had in Excel and Word documents and built these novels.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us.
I probably, over the course of those 2 weeks, I finished for Michelle in the first draft of Lost and Found, the second book, and really plotted out where 3, 4, and 5 were going to go. I had an idea of how I wanted the series to end, and that was as far as I had gotten. So I was working on those, and my wife can attest. I have, I'm slightly on the spectrum a little bit, and I tend to hyperfixate. I've hyperfixated on this for about 9.5 months now. And my wife's been a gem. She's my editor. She's the one who questions, hey, did you really mean to say that? Or is this the line you were thinking you wanted to place there? And she's kept me in line and kept me moving forward.
Now, do you have a specific reader in mind when you write these books?
So, For Michelle is the most in genre book out of the series. It typically follows, if you like Nicholas Sparks or Pat Conroy, that really dramatic love interest story, that's going to be where that falls. Now, everything else builds off of that story, and it becomes this very dramatic world that they live in. And it's not going to be, oh, I'm not a romance reader. There's something in this series for everyone, whether it's mystery, intrigue, some suspenseful moments in there. Life isn't always that one genre. As we go throughout our day, we have highs, we have lows, we have good moments, we have those nice families that we come home to, or sometimes we don't. And the series reflects that. It helps bring everyone in.
Right. Now, has any of your characters ever surprised you?
Yes. I was on a road trip a couple months back, probably late May. There is an overarching villain through the series, which I won't get into too much detail because it kind of comes out of you. It's not necessarily that it comes out as a shock. If you read it and you read it well, you'll see it coming. But if you skim it or you're a speed reader, there's going to be things you miss, and that sixth book is going to shock you. But we asked ourselves, is there a way to make the evilest person in the series sympathetic? Right. And I said, I don't think so. And my wife goes, are you sure? And I said, well, hold on. Let me think about that. And on our way down to Massachusetts, we plotted out a book that is coming out at the end of this month called Twisted Roots. And it takes the most evil character and gives them a sympathetic backstory that you can see where they come from. One of my favorite series that I ever read was the Hannibal Lecter series by Thomas Harris.
Okay.
And when you start that series in Red Dragon, he is this vicious person. He is this monster behind a cage. As it moves through Silence of the Lambs, he's become this mentor and a teacher figure. And by the time you finish that series with Hannibal, you find yourself rooting for the guy you thought deserved to be behind the cage in the first book. And it really plays in your head a little bit. So Twisted Roots is it's a mafia tale. It is very, without invoking the holy name, it is very Godfather-esque. It doesn't hold back. It is a graphic read. So if you're squeamish, it may not be the one for you.
So what made you decide to switch over? Because this is a way different than South Carolina.
So as you read the books, you become familiar with the Romano family. They have their influences in Paradise. And as you lead back, you find out. So Michelle's husband is Cyrus Romano. His father is Caesar. And he's the one that kind of pulls some strings and makes things happen and is the evil, at least in the beginning of the series, that pushes the envelope. So you can't have a good guy without a bad guy. And you can't have a great bad guy without a good story to start them in.
For those out there that are struggling to sit down and write a book, so what kind of tools or rituals keep you productive?
So I love Novel Crafter. It is a great website. It's a cheap service, and it helps organize thoughts. The easiest thing that I can tell you, or anyone looking to write, there is a story in anything. Question is, how much are you willing to look into it to find that actual story? Biggest question, what happened next? Keep asking that. Keep plugging away. That's how For Michelle went from a book to a 6-book series to a sequel series to now 2 sequel series and a prequel series. Is, well, why? Never be afraid to ask why. Okay. There's always going to be an answer. And if you want to give a good answer, you'll ask, well, okay, that's why. But why is that why? And you'll keep digging in and looking further and find the story that's worth telling.
And so what advice would you give to first-time authors then?
Start with something you know. Start with something you're passionate about. Your passion comes through what you write. And If you are not passionate about something you think it fits the mold of what's being read, but it's not something you're interested in, it comes through and you're not going to have a reader for it. So find something you love and try to explain it to the world to make them see it the way you do.
Right. And so, what's the one thing that you wished you know when you started publishing your own books?
Give yourself a little time.
Okay.
Nothing's going to be overnight. I would love to say with 6 books out on the market that I am sitting pretty, that all I do is write and count my money. It's not the truth. It'll probably never be the truth. But I'm sharing something that I love, and the readers that pick it up are sharing that.
Right. Would you ever consider writing nonfiction or memoir?
Absolutely. Nonfiction, my wife and my oldest are both history majors, and a lot of times we talk about different events and things, and it would be interesting to either write a historical fiction or possibly nonfiction. But right now, Paradise has me kind of pulled in that direction. I was going to say, once the sequel series is finished, I've had a few people that I talked to ask what else is out there, what's next for you. And so I was looking at a detective story that I had been kicking around, something in Vermont, sort of a fish out of water tale, someone that, came from somewhere different and is trying to acclimate themselves to Vermont. I'm not sure that I'm at all familiar with that story, but base it around a little murder mystery and make it interesting.
You also are a photographer, correct?
Yes, sir.
So about photography then, what does storytelling help you process that photography doesn't, and then also like vice versa?
Photography is great. I was going to say, I used to work at Coastal Carolina University back in South Carolina. I've had some images featured in ESPN magazine working with the different athletic events down there. You get a snapshot with a photograph. You may know the story because you read the rest of the paper, but you get that one moment immortalized and captured. And it's great sometimes because sometimes that moment is perfect. Sometimes you need more than just that one moment to tell the whole story.
Right.
And that's what writing offers. That lead up to that perfect moment and then the resolution past it.
Which is interesting too, because you're also those that visit ThaddeusRobinson.com, which is your website, you have a link to a Spotify playlist, so people should be listening to your play for each book, basically, right?
So there is a playlist for each book. It was what I was listening to as I was outlining or writing those books. It was music that spoke to me, and sometimes it trickled over and popped in certain scenes in the novels. Certain songs are referenced, and it's definitely, I like to share that world so you can get into the scary place that is my headspace as you're reading some of those thoughts that have trickled out.
If you had 10 seconds to pitch your book to a stranger, what would you say?
It's an emotional series that will take you highs and lows and show you the depth of your soul that you are not willing to see.
It's interesting too. I look at some of the reviews. Someone said, "I finished this book with tears in my eyes. For Michelle is not just a love story; it's about the consequences of love, the weight of silence, and the cost of living with regret. The father-son dynamic, well, it was written so well, and I found myself pausing just to reflect on my own family. If you enjoy multi-generational dramas with emotional depth, this is it." That's a really good review.
I had a friend back home who just happened to see my Facebook post, and she goes, "I didn't know you wrote." And I said, "Well, I do." And she goes, "I have Kindle Unlimited." And I said, "Well, they're available on there." And I was able to watch her go through the first 4 books in just under 2 weeks. And
Wow.
I would get texts from her every once in a while going, "You're so wrong for the tears that are staining my Kindle right now." So they
Wow.
are deep stories. They are not something just skimming the surface. I tried to touch on second chances. It deals with it's a cancer survivor story. My grandmother had 5 primary cancer 7 times.
Wow.
And I was around for about half of them and saw her fight in her struggle. But it's about the attitude and about how you attack it. And I tried to put that courage in that character's story.
So, Thaddeus, if people want to learn more about you and your books, where's the best place they could go to?
Best place they can go to is ThaddeusRobinson.com. It's THDDEUSROBINSON.com.
They could order their books through there and get like signed copies from you?
I don't have signed copies on there. I will be hosting an event at Wells River, Vermont Public Library. I'm working with several local libraries in the Northeast Kingdom to host events. So if you can stop by one of those, you can get a signed copy. There are the links to the Amazon to be able to buy the other books.
Well, listen, Thaddeus, you're gonna have to come back on when you got some more. You got books coming out. They're just every few months or so. It seems like there's a new Thaddeus Robinson book.
Oh, got to have something to do up here in Vermont. It's going to start turning cold.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Thaddeus.
Thank you.